Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you my fall favorites for 2024. I'm so excited to just get into this wheel with you guys because, as you all know, I'm a big seasonal wearer. This is easily my longest running series ever since I started my channel just 2.5 years ago, and I just can't believe it's already time for another one. So as always, I will save more of my thoughts and some honorable mentions for the end. For now, let me just show you my favorites. So the first polish that I have is ILNP's Bloodline, and this one is described as a rich Marsala holographic. I had actually picked this up almost a year ago during Black Friday. It was based off of a recommendation, and I have basically been waiting almost a whole year to use this. I feel like it is just such a beautiful, perfect shade for fall. It just has this deep, rich kind of berry color that's also earthy because it's a little brown leaning. The sparkle is just so insane. No surprise, I'm a big fan of this one. Next up, I have Ethereal Lacquer's Mine All Mine. This was from the Vamp collection that came out last month, and this one is described as a mauvey rose base with a bronze pearlescent shimmer. So first of all, I have to give a big thank you to my bestie for sending me this one because I gasped when I saw the swatches of it. I know that might sound dramatic, but I literally just, my jaw dropped. I thought this was such a beautiful and cozy polish between the warm rosy base and the warm coppery shimmer. I just don't know how else to explain it other than this polish makes me feel so warm in my soul. It really took my breath away. This is what I'm wearing on one of my hands, and when I painted it and looked at my nails, I swooned. This next shade should come as no surprise. This is ILNP's Rosalie from the very recent Vineyard collection. It's described as a rosy pink holographic jelly polish. Easily my favorite jelly that they came out with this year. Well, maybe my second favorite. But ILNP has been feeding me when it comes to these warmer toned pink jellies, and Rosalie is perfection. I just love her so much. I always go for a rosy, dusty pink like this in the fall, and this one is my newest obsession. Up next, I have Holo Taco's Ginger Snatched, and this one came out earlier this year in the Cookies and Creams bundle, which I think came out in the spring, but I immediately knew this was going to make it into my fall favorites. It's described as a medium cinnamon brown in their creme formula, and it has flawless coverage. I, of course, had to include it. Then I have another ethereal, courtesy of my bestie. Thank you so much. This is Beware, and it's described as a warm, deep brick red jelly base with silver magnetic pigment. I absolutely love brick reds in the fall. They are just such a classic staple kind of color, and this one isn't the traditional brick red that I would think of. I feel like it is a lot deeper, a lot more brown leaning, but I love it for that reason. I feel like this is one of those perfect like cherry mocha kind of colors, which I know was so last year or whatever, but that color is beautiful regardless of when it's trending, so I am just so grateful to have this one in my collection. Next, I have another ILNP. This one is Shapeshifter from last year's Fright Night Halloween collection, but I feel like this one can just so easily work for the rest of the season. It's described as a chocolate brown jelly polish accented with reflective metallic flakes and a subtle holographic sparkle. I remember just loving this one when I swatched it last year. I mean, I normally do love browns, but there was just something so special about this one, and I'm pretty sure it's those little flakies. They just have such a beautiful glow against that deep, warm chocolate base. Ugh, I love it. This next shade is Polish for Days Scarlet Oak, which I think came out a couple of years ago. I have to give a big thank you to my friend Janet for sending me this one. When she first shared swatches of this, my jaw dropped. It just was such a stunning shade. I know it's not super impressive on the first coat, but it builds up so beautifully. This one is described as a deep red jelly base that's just packed with these iridescent color shifting flakies that mainly have a golden glow, but also shift to green and pink. It is just so gorgeous. Next I have Holo Taco's I'm Rover It, which, can you believe, came out in their first collection of the year. It feels like so long ago, but back then I knew this was gonna make it to my fall favorites. It's described as a burnt red jelly shimmer formula with orange shimmer and holographic microflakes. I feel like this shade is self-explanatory. I mean, they all are, honestly. You can just look at them and say, yeah, these are fall colors. I just love the burnt orange kind of color to this one specifically. It is so satisfying. The next shade I have is Picture Polish's Foxy, which I have been waiting for because the first time that I tried a picture polish was last December, and it pained me to try on this shade knowing I would have to wait until the following year to use it because it was just so freaking gorgeous. This is another burnt orange polish with a holographic flaky, and it is just so flawless in its coverage, totally giving me pumpkin spice vibes. It is just so delectable. I love this shade so much. I do have another orange polish. This next one is Dimension Nails Bengal Tiger, which I believe came out just last fall, but I didn't get to swatch it until maybe November, so I feel like I just didn't have enough time to enjoy this polish, and I've basically been thinking about it since then. This one is described as a rich orange with a strong gold shimmer, and oh my gosh, it is just so perfect. It always blows my mind when I hear people say that they don't like orange polish because I just cannot imagine a world without it. It is just so gorgeous, especially for fall. I swear this next one is not orange, but it definitely is a very close, like, orange adjacent shade. This is ILNP's Hayride from the Harvest collection a couple of years ago, because is it even fall if we're not wearing a shade from the Harvest collection? Probably not. So I wanted to show some love to one of the shades that I kind of neglected. Admittedly, this one is pretty similar to Pumpkin Patch, which was the true orange from that collection. This one is described as a very warm golden yellow shimmer, which I think pops a lot more in real life than it does on camera, but it's just so perfect for this time of year. And the closest to a true yellow that I have this year is ILNP's Uptown, which is described as a burnt orange, but I honestly think it leans a lot more yellow than it does orange, at least when compared to the other oranges on my wheel. This one is from the Manhattan collection, which you're going to be seeing on my channel real soon, and I just adore it so much. There's something just so incredibly flattering about this color, where I almost want to call it like a warm golden kind of shade. Just so beautiful, and obviously love the sparkle. So finally getting into the cooler side of the color wheel, this next polish I have is Cracked the Shag, which came out last year and just is another one of those shades that I could not wait to get on my wheel this year. This one's described as a soft hunter green with a micro blue and green shimmer as well as a golden sheen. I mainly see the gold shimmer in this one, but that is perfectly fine for me because I love gold shimmers in my nail polishes, and I think this one is just so beautiful, mainly for the base color though. I just love these shades of green so much. Another one from last year is Orly's Look at the Thyme, and this was specifically from their Spice It Up collection from their Breathable line, which just honorable mention to that whole collection, but this is one of my top favorites from that set. It's just described as a rich green cream, which I'm not the best at describing colors either, but I'm like, come on, Orly, like give me more. So I think I would describe this as a mix between a dusty hunter green and an olive green. I could see it going both ways, but either way, it is just so beautiful. Another shade that I have been waiting to use is Mooncat's Monster Under Your Head, which came out in their Inner Apocalypse collection last year that released during like the winter. I don't know if it was late November or December, but like many others in that collection, this one was just giving me more fall vibes. So I am just so happy to be using it now. It's described as a dark olive green linear holographic, and it is just so gorgeous. I love a good olive green in the fall, which wasn't always the case. Believe it or not, years ago, I used to not like olive greens, and look at us now. Who would have thought? Up next, I have Starrily Tempest, and this came out earlier this year in the Heartbreak Hues collection for Valentine's Day, and I remember thinking back then, this is such a strange color to release for this time of year, but it's gonna be perfect for the fall, and here we are. They just described this as a teal creme shade, which I guess is fair. I would say that there's definitely this dustiness to it though that just makes it so fitting for the season. I love me a good moody blue, even though I'm not always a big fan of like gloomy days. I think this one still invokes that. Speaking of moody blues, this next one is Mooncat's Misery is My Favorite Color, and this one was also from the Inner Apocalypse collection last winter. It's described as a slate blue lacquer filled with electric blue shimmer. If there's one thing about me, I love a good slate blue, and I also love blue shimmer. So I adore this polish for combining those two things. It is just giving all of those gloomy, moody vibes, but making it really pretty. So I do have one more quote-unquote gloomy polish, and that's Night Owl Lacquer's Windswept, which I picked up last year when I tried Night Owl Lacquer for the first time, and there was just something so enchanting about this polish to me. It's just described as a charcoal gray with bright copper shimmer and a lot of multi-chrome flakes that shift to red, to copper, to orange and gold, but I feel like this just perfectly captures the changing, rustling leaves blowing in the wind on an overcast day. Next, I have Cracked Polish's Velvet Seat Cushion, and this one is described as a rich burgundy with small purple glitters, but I would say that the base is very much purple, not so much burgundy. Either way though, it is absolutely stunning. I love a good jewel tone purple shade for the fall. There's something just so alluring and mysterious about them. I mean, I guess it's true for any kind of deeper color, but I don't know, there's just something extra beautiful about a deep purple. I especially love how the shimmer just glows in this one. And rounding out my fall favorites this year is KBShimmer's Hidden Potential. I picked this one up last Black Friday because I just saw so many people ranting and raving over it. I try not to give into peer pressure a lot, but seeing this polish so often on Reddit just had me gasping and needing it in my collection. It's described as a warm violet base with a strong coppery burnt orange shimmer that shifts to gold, but also green and blue in more extreme lighting. This is the polish that made me realize I actually do love multi-chromes. And here is a look at my completed swatch wheel. So I have 3 coats of everything plus top coat. So everything is looking so shiny, so sparkly. I just love how this wheel turned out. Though it does pain me that this wheel isn't any bigger because there are so many other polishes I would have loved to include, but I'm happy with my selection here. I think they all look so fantastic together, and I'm just so inspired by these colors. I feel like they complement each other so nicely. So it was also interesting to see that this year I gravitated towards a lot of like specialty finishes, mainly shimmers. I only had a couple of creams this year, which is so crazy because I normally am drawn to creams in the fall, which you'll see in a second. But yeah, here is my wheel, just a little more zoomed out so you can see the full thing in its glory. Oh, I just love looking at it. It just is so rich and warm. But of course, I had to also pull out my swatch wheel from last year, and you can see right away I have a lot more creams. I really do love last year's wheel, and of course I'm going to try to still use some of those polishes too, but there's just something about this year that has me craving so much more warmth, which I think you can tell by the expansion of some of the oranges and kind of pinky shades. I had a few more browns last year. Technically Shapeshifter is the only brown this year, but honestly it's kind of the only brown that I need. So yeah, I love this wheel and I can't wait to hear what you think. So that wraps up my fall favorites for 2024. As always, I can't wait to hear what you think of this year's picks and this wheel in general, because obviously I love it so much. I just can't get over how warm and cozy and sparkly it is, especially in comparison to last year's wheel where I had a lot of creams. I'm obviously still gonna try to use a couple of those creams from last year though, because they just fit right in with these shades and look so good. As an October baby, I feel like I'm pretty biased saying that fall is the best season, but even objectively, I think fall just has such great colors. Like, I always love to see the fall collections that come out. The colors in general are just so beautiful. And granted, a lot of my picks are from last fall or even winter, but I feel like there are a few that could be considered new. And speaking of new, I wanted to include some honorable mentions because, like I mentioned, this wheel is just not big enough to include all of the polishes that I want to highlight this year. There's a few shades from Cracked Polishes Italy collection, including Quinoto, Rooftops in Bologna, and Terracotta Ruins. I feel like those can easily fit in with these shades. And those are all more like the creams or crelly kind of consistencies, so I feel like they definitely would pair as like a nice skittle. Then I also had to mention Favs Hayride, which was the only shade that I considered repeating this year. I try not to repeat my shades just to, I don't know, give love to a bunch of other polishes that I didn't highlight the year before. So even though it didn't officially make the wheel and it kind of lost out to Uptown from ILNP, I'm not mad at it at all because, again, I feel like this shade just fits in so perfectly with these others. I also really wish that I could have included Holo Taco's Headhunter from the very recent Dark Academia collection. Once I saw that green, my jaw dropped. It is just the perfect, super dark and dusty hunter green. I was this close to swapping it out for Orly's Look at the Thyme, but I really wanted to include this one because I feel like I just didn't give it enough love last year. So, you know, it's another one that I feel like can easily fit in with the greens this year. Then there's also KBShimmer's Let the Beat Drop, which I think I picked up last year during Black Friday, and it was on my wish list for a while. So it was another one of those shades that I feel like I've just been waiting all year basically to use it, and it kind of pained me to not include it in my wheel. I was honestly considering swapping it with KBShimmer's Hidden Potential, which, like I mentioned, is another one that I grabbed last year after seeing so many people talk about it. I feel like there was a lot of back and forth deciding which one I wanted to include, but obviously I went with Hidden Potential. But just know that Let the Beat Drop is also going to be like on my list to wear this year. And lastly, I have to give a shout out to a couple of Mooncat polishes that I really wish I could have included, more specifically Like Moth to a Flame, which came out in the Inner Apocalypse collection, which thankfully I did include a couple of shades from that set because I feel like, if you remember, when I reviewed that collection that launched as like the winter release, I wasn't really feeling it, and I realized that it just gives me very heavy fall vibes instead. So I feel like a lot of those colors I was also just waiting to use because they didn't feel right for me as a winter collection. And speaking of collections, I also have to mention the Seasons of Persephone collection, which was their very first release this year. That whole lineup was just so beautiful, and I feel like could easily work for the fall season. If I had to narrow it down though, I was really debating on including shades like Love Bomb, To All Who Ghosted Me, The Trouble with Immortality, and honestly even Queen of the Dead, the thermal. It just would fit so well with these colors again. So yeah, kind of a shame that I couldn't include them in like my official wheel this year, but I am planning on sharing some of those in an upcoming video to give them their flowers. I know that was a lot, I'm so sorry, but I just can't help but gush over these gorgeous fall colors. I feel like it always takes me a little while to get into the fall vibes because I just generally love the spring and summer. I love the sunshine. So once I'm ready, I feel like I go all in. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this year's wheel. Leave me a like if you did. Of course, you have to let me know what you're planning on wearing this season, especially if we have anything in common, or just let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.